Hey guys, what's up? It's Paul Salazar over at Hilton Highland Real Estate. I have Garrett and Colin, USC professors, co-founders, fathers, best friends, young guys,
Very young.
just like me, young guys. And we got introduced from my operations manager, Tamara, who took your class in college. She just graduated last year. And she told me, I think you guys would connect with these guys because they're kind of like you and they're fun and they're just good people. So thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. Well, first off, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, let's go first.
Oh, you're gonna let me go first.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that was pretty much it. I think the only thing you left off of our joint resume here is that we wrote a book that we are really passionate about, the Unsold Mindset. And I'm not saying that necessarily to plug the book, but because I feel like a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is going to come from this journey that we've been on when we wrote that book.
Yeah.
So, we are both longtime sales leaders. We came together at a company over 10 years ago now that was in the enterprise software space. And kind of led the revenue and sales side of that company until it was acquired by Google back in 2017. And after that acquisition, we did things separately, but together we got asked to be on a lot of stages in front of a lot of classrooms talking about how we did it, because it wasn't like a typical sales culture and high pressure and that tech bro culture that you kind of read about and hear about.
For sure.
We did something a little bit different and we were successful. And so we found ourselves on stages in front of those classrooms, and eventually USC came to us and said, hey, do you guys want to teach this as a class? People seem to be digging the lectures that you're giving. And we looked at each other and went, yes, we would love to do that.
That's cool.
And so that was a long time ago now. We are actually currently in our 14th semester teaching the class we created together, Sales Mindset for Entrepreneurs at USC. And that class is what led to the book and the things that we'll talk about today, which is why I bring that up.
Very cool.
That was good.
Awesome.
What can I add? If you look at, personally, if you look at my resume starting now and going backwards, you'd think my entire career was meant to be in sales and in leadership. I mean, I've had a chief commercial officer role, a chief revenue officer role, an SVP of sales, like all these sales roles. But if you go all the way back, sales was a bad word in my house.
Yeah.
Like all the way back in like high school and junior high, like my parents were like, please go to college and get a real job. First generation college student, like everything was about education and probably what it looked like to be a professional, and sales didn't go in front of that word. So when I graduated college, I didn't have the savings to decide, right, like what I wanted to do. It was either move back in with your parents or take the first job that was offered to you, and that was a sales job. And I was really bad at it.
Yeah.
And
it's
like
in the book. It's a good story.
Right?
Yeah.
So like basically that's how it started. Like it started by not wanting to be a salesperson, thinking the word sales was yucky, getting really bad at it. And then when they put me on a PIP and I knew I was going to get fired, you dare the establishment to fire you at that point when you're 21. Yeah. Like, I don't care what you're going to fire me anyways. Yeah. Stop asking the questions you don't care about. Stop laughing at shit that's not funny. Yeah. Start actually treating people like a human being and not like a transaction, because you're not expecting them to buy. You're already treating them like they're on your side. And like that was the beginning of it all. And the conversation we'll have today, like the conversation in that book, the conversation Garrett and I had in that room when we met each other, the conversations that we have with our students, like it's all around this idea that the greatest salespeople on the planet are the exact opposite of who you think they are.
Yeah.
Like they're just not the most gregarious and like attractive and articulate people in the room. Yeah. They're just self-aware. They can say something and know that person did not hear it the way it was intended to. It did not land. And they can course correct. Yeah. They talk to somebody and be like, oh, this person does not think that I'm listening. They think I'm waiting to speak. And so like that was the journey for us. I was like, all right, well, if that's the case, like when we get to this company,
that's amazing.
Let's create something that feels more authentic to what we believe great sales looks like, and less like what every book we've ever read depicts it.
I have a question, because you said something about your parents wanting you not to be in sales.
Yeah.
And go and do, maybe be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. Because I had that same kind of upbringing too.
Yeah.
Like my dad was an entrepreneur, my mom was, my brothers were, my whole family, we're Colombian. So that's kind of in our blood in a way. It's like you go to Colombia, you don't have homeless people asking for money. They're washing your car. Mm-hmm. They're juggling things in the air. Yeah. They're checking your tire pressure. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they're always working in these creative ways to make money, right? So like, why did your parents not want you to be in sales?
Well, for starters, they weren't entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So they probably didn't actually understand that entrepreneurs are selling ideas themselves, other people's ideas every day.
Yeah.
And they were essentially frontline workers, right? I was the first generation college student. So they actually,
Same.
probably didn't understand how much selling like actually goes into, like, there's a reason why our class is called Sales Mindset for Entrepreneurs. Like once again, looking back, it's easy to connect the dots. Like looking backwards, all the research we did, all the classes that we've taught, all of the experience as a practitioner has led me to believe that you're not going to be able to change the world if you don't know how to move people.
Yep.
So it really
And that
doesn't matter
sells,
what
yeah.
you do, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're an engineer, you better make sure that you are going to get permission to build this thing. And it's not like that they have to say yes. It's like that they want to say yes.
Yeah.
Like if you're a leader, like you need people to want to fight for you, not have to fight for you. So like to answer your question directly, I don't think my parents were ever in a position to sell their own ideas, to sell themselves authentically. I think they were from another generation, and
Where are they from?
my dad's Guyanese, black,
Guyanese.
Christian, came here in his 20s. My mom, Jewish, born in the Valley.
Okay.
They got married. Both parties basically disowned them. There were people at the wedding, but there weren't the people that were supposed to be at the wedding right?
Yeah,
There were a lot of
yeah,
people
yeah.
missing, and they sort of like just put everything into their single child, right? The baby boy. You're going to do what we didn't do.
Yeah.
You're going to go to college,
For
and
sure.
you're going to be something important.
Yeah.
And salesperson is not synonymous with that.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
who knew what it would end up in? Writing a book for HarperCollins, being a professor, and
I know,
having
that's
the
cool, man.
executive presence I think that they wanted me to have.
So how do they feel now?
My mom still thinks that she's the greatest salesperson on the planet. Every time I talk to her about it, she goes, "You're so good, except for me. You're not selling me." And my dad is like this beaming, shining like lights.
Yeah.
I was talking to him on
My
the way
son,
here.
the
That's
professor.
cool.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, we're going to this podcast for this like really awesome real estate group." He's like, "Oh, with Brown?"
Yeah.
He's talking about Garrett. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, I tell him, I said, "What's up, man? You're so blessed. You're so blessed." He's
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
he's a
man.
good dad. Trying
cool.
hard to be like him.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And how about you? Did you have any like upbringing that really affected this kind of role that you're in now?
The only thing similar about my path here
Yeah.
to Collins is that it was completely unexpected.
Okay.
I went to law school out of college, straight out of college, went straight to law school because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grow up. Took a law class as an undergraduate and thought that seemed like an interesting path. My dad's a lawyer. And so I said, I'll go to law school for a few years while I figure things out. Went to law school and got swept away in the competitiveness of it. Like you're just around that type of person.
The energy.
And so I ended up practicing law for about 3 years, hating it every second of it. Like and partly because I sucked at it. I was a terrible lawyer, but I think the reason I sucked was because I just didn't like it. It wasn't me. It was contentious, and it was counting every 6 minutes of your day to bill your tenths of an hour, and it wasn't for me. But I was representing startups and entrepreneurs as a corporate transactional lawyer. And so that just seemed like a lot more fun. So when I finally had enough after about 3 years and I left, I knew that I wanted to get onto more of the startup side of things. And as many people, a lot of our students are finding out every day, sometimes the easiest way to get a foot in the door in a new industry is on the sales side.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
people need, you need young salespeople that are trying to build up their careers and their experience. And that was me. And so I got in there and was lucky to do some pretty cool things and climb the ranks really quickly. So that the origin of it was just, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I know I want to get into business and preferably startups, and sales was the way in. And so it was sort of just dumb luck.
Yeah, and I think your book, in the beginning of your book, you really touch on the fact that there is that bad connotation with salespeople, car salesmen or, people that call on the phone. Like we get most of our business from door knocking and from cold calling.
Yeah.
So we're doing the old school stuff. So I get that, and you also talk about this thing about, people that are going, on the phone for the first time and cold calling and the fear they get. I remember that fear. It was 13 years into my career. I was on another team and I was just coasting. I wasn't really pushing myself. And I said, okay, I got to make a change here. I'm already like 35, 36 years old. I have this new girlfriend. She's an entrepreneur and I'm just like embarrassed. I'm like, why am I just coasting? I'm not doing anything really difficult. I'm not really challenging myself. I've got, I have clients from like open houses and like, through my sphere, but I haven't really pushing myself to get to that next level. And I started listening to Tom Ferry, who we talked about, a real estate coach. And he's like, you should be calling expires, on his YouTube channel. So it took me 3 months to get the I guess the balls, or just the courage to get on the phone. But I was scared. I was so scared to get on that first phone call.
It's super normal.
It's
like in the book we call it stereotype threat. It's like to be associated with this thing that feels, like if you think about door knocking, it's really a great place to start. This like conversation around, it's not what you do, but it's how you think. Like door knocking is so hard. It's almost one of those like rites of passage. Like, oh, if you can do this, you can do anything. Yeah. That's not because tactically they're really good at speaking when they get to the door. It's because they're really good at all of the hard stuff. Like the amount of like the amount of shit, pardon my French, that you have to take, right? The calluses that you have to create, and like what ends up happening. Ray Lewis says this quote that's it's in the book. Like it's like this, I've stolen it from Garrett like 10 years ago. It's my favorite quote I've ever heard. He says, "They pay me for what I do Monday to Saturday, but Sundays are free."
Yeah.
And like, it's just like that meant
Ray
so
Lewis
much
is a
to
football
me.
player.
Yeah. Ravens.
Just in case anybody doesn't know who's watching.
Dude, yeah.
Okay, and they play football primarily on every day, but Sunday is what he's referring to.
It used to be just Sundays.
Yeah,
when he
now
said
it's
the
not.
quote.
Saturday, Thursdays.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to my wife. Fantasy football has not been easy on our family this year. But anyways, like that quote didn't just mean he knew what he loved so much. Like he loved the game so much he would do it for free. It also meant that he knew all the stuff that he didn't love, but that he was getting paid to do. And like when you think about something like door knocking, which like it's not like most people are like, hey, I really want to do this. But the people that end up like thriving in their careers have acknowledged what part of door knocking, as a prime example, they do love. Like the part of door knocking that they love so much, they probably would be doing it for free with their friends versus the part of door knocking that they really can't stand, but they're getting paid to do it. Like that concept alone about like dissecting like the place that you're in and looking for the good in it. And like being self-aware enough to be like, hey, the brain is really malleable. It's going to look for the good. It will look for the bad. It'll find both of them. Like you're talking about an industry where you have to go and cold call people. And if you convert 3 out of 10, you are an all-star.
Oh, 100%.
You're a 30%
Yeah,
hitter.
100 sometimes.
Hitter, right?
Yeah.
That means you're getting like really mean things coming inbound to you 7 out of 10 times. That's what the book's about. Like we were finding like all of these great successful people, like it wasn't what they were doing, it's how they were thinking. Like they were taking these concepts, they were ignoring the parts of their job that didn't bring them authentic energy. They weren't trying to be like other people because they realized like really early that you couldn't fake it and people smell it. Like they worried a lot less about goals and a lot more about purpose because like you people that were purpose driven could see themselves in you. There were all these things that they were all talking, but none of them were talking to each other. Like none of them knew that they were all doing the same exact thing. They were all doing the same exact thing.
No, for sure. And I think what I've realized in at least my journey over the last, say, 4 or 5 years since I started coaching with Tom Ferry, I've grown so much and my confidence has grown so much. And it starts with just doing difficult things like coming on camera. The first time I came on camera, I looked like a fucking robot. I can't even stand seeing myself. I'm like this, And then over time, you just do it more and more and more. Even if everybody's going to suck in the beginning. And I think what everybody sees online, on Instagram it's after everybody has gone through all those like really dark and difficult times or awkward times being on camera or on the phone calls or in sales meetings or on a pitch. And it's so hard for them to get back up and do it again. So like, what is it? Like, what is that like? Like I grew up with a father that had no fear. He came from Colombia. He was 18 years old. He stopped going to school after 5th grade in Colombia, poor. He started a business. He's an entrepreneur, right? So like that fear side. But then I wasn't like that for a long time, and all of a sudden I had a switch because of my girlfriend. She inspired me. She was an entrepreneur, and I was like, all right, I got to do something here, And then I got a coach, and then I started making cold calls. I think for me, it was the cold calls and getting over that hump that gave me the confidence to leave my last team, to hire an assistant, to build a team, to go on video, and just these little small wins to build the confidence. So like, do you guys teach that in your course? Like doing the difficult things, doing the things that really bring you fear, And then once you overcome that fear, you're like, oh shit, it's not that scary.
Yeah, talk about it. I mean, we have a concept called celebrating the process, which is really similar. But in general, like I'll wish that guy out there in the bullpen, like if he's brand new, like I will wish
He's
him
brand new.
great. I would wish him 1,000 no's in his first 100 days, because if every time he gets a no, and then he goes to someone like you or whoever and goes, what could I have done differently? Like now he's got that tool. Like in 100 days, he's got the fattest tool belt ever. And the problem is like most people don't ask that question afterwards. And especially like in sales, there's a high turnover rate because there's so much blame displacement. Like you're the best guy in the room, so I'm just going to try to be like you. I'm going to use your same talk track, your same jokes. I'm going to do your same demeanor, but yet it's not working. And then you start to see all of this self-entitlement, and you start to feel like this. I'm turning into the salesperson that I never thought I was, that I never wanted to be, because there's no way it's my fault that they're not buying. It must be the client's fault because I'm doing exactly what the number one hitter does. So now all of a sudden, like you're a knower, and nobody wants to be in a room with a know-it-all. You don't know how to create agency. People will say no to you because you're right, because they don't care if they don't feel like they're part of the process, and then they burn out, and then they fizzle out, and then they go into another profession, and they try to do sales again, try to copy the number one hitter. It's like this vicious cycle. And you talk to any number one hitter, and they say, I am great because no one can be me better than me.
Yeah.
But when Colin's talking about celebrating the process, and he's talking about that cycle, these folks who are going to be great are the ones who celebrate those lessons. All those 1,000 no's, they're learning one tiny little thing. Oh, I'm not going to say that before I say this. I'm not going to call this type of, every time they're learning, they're celebrating that. If you're just waiting for the win in any sale, whether it's actually picking up the phone and making a cold call or selling an idea or whatever, if you're just waiting for the win, you're playing this game of delayed gratification. And in some cases, that delayed gratification can take a really long time. But if you're figuring out a way to celebrate those incremental wins along the way, now it's a game of prolonged gratification. You can find we find stuff at least every week to go celebrate. We get
for sure. It's important.
It's the fun part about being business partners with your best friends.
Yeah.
Like what are we celebrating this week? And we'll find some good stuff. And sometimes it's not the obvious winning stuff. Sometimes it's like, we had a deal that we thought for sure was going to happen. It was going to be a game changer, and it didn't happen. But let's go celebrate because we got this close. And here's what we learned from it. Break it down with our after action review and figure out what went wrong. And we got pretty good at doing that and holding each other accountable to make sure that we're doing that, which is also nice.
I think that's really important. Stephen Covey, I think his last name is. Yeah. He has that one book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he talks about time management. Right, he's got that one matrix, right? Urgent, not urgent, important, not important.
Yep.
And he talks about what is the best use of your time is reflection. Is really sitting down and reflecting on, the last week or the last month and just kind of adjusting, always making those small adjustments. And that's what you said right now. It's like, okay, what could we have done differently? You're making 1,000 calls. If you keep doing the same thing, you're not going to get, you'll get the same result, right?
It's also the mindset shift of celebrating bad things. Yeah. Like, like in the book, we talk about a company that has like a hang up hangout. And like, like weekly, they will give a prize to the person that had that. Because if you can culturally shift, and like in any culture, like I deal with this sometimes on like product organizations, it's like make mistakes, just make them going 100 miles an hour, But like if you have a culture where you're afraid to make mistakes, then like nothing's going to happen. Yeah. And so your cold calling question, like, or your example, and by the way, your girlfriend, still your girlfriend?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, she sounds like...
She had a good impact.
Oh, yeah, she had an amazing impact on me.
It sounds like
I love her. She's an amazing person. Yeah.
It sounds like it's an interesting chapter in your book.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing about cold calling that we have found, like just very obvious when it switches for people, is when they realize that like goals are not the answer. Like you're not going to become a better cold caller because you make 100 calls a day. Like you'd be a better cold caller because you made 100 calls a day, you had 0 conversations, and your metric that you are judging success by is not how many calls you make. And the only way that you really do that is by shifting like your goals. And I would love to take credit, like if we're smart and we just decided that purpose was more important than goals, but it's actually the opposite. Like we are very goal-oriented people. We went on a mission when we were writing this book to write a chapter about goal orientation, and we went to a bunch of really successful people, and we wanted to understand, how do you think about goals? Because it's obviously got to be a driving force. most of them didn't want to talk about it. It was uninteresting to them. Like, and when you really pulled back and you were like, tell us about this because it's important to us, that's when they were like, well, like, let's talk about all sides of goals. Let's talk about the downside of goals. Like, how often have you hit a goal and you thought to yourself, damn, I thought this was going to feel different? How often have you showed up
100%.
as the person that you don't want to be because your back's against the wall and you're not hitting your goal? They were all like really trying to shoehorn the word purpose into their definition of why goals weren't the topic of conversation we should be having. And you started to just see it in all the conversations. Like, they weren't viewing goals as finish lines. Like, they were viewing goals as mile markers.
But do you think that they always had that type of wherewithal?
No.
It takes time, right? Because when I was reading your book, I feel this book is good for people that have been in sales for a little bit. And then they can try to, because I feel like you have to learn a little bit of scripts. You have to kind of get somewhere, get started, right?
But so here's the point. The point is that if you're a cold caller and you have a purpose attached to your goal, so the goal is to make a certain amount of money, which means you got to make a certain amount of cold calls, you got to convert a certain amount, right? We all got sales velocity metrics. But they're attaching that to providing a better family, or building a house, or sending their mom on a cruise for retirement. Something like that's very important, right? Something big why. That person will make more cold calls than 100.
For sure.
Like they will, like there's a different reason for why they're calling. And then you start to see the elevated version of this when people are tying it to the product that they are selling. When they start to see their purpose in the product. Because if you had a conversation with somebody that was purpose driven, it's like real recognizes real. You're like, damn, this dude moves different. I don't know why. Typically, it's because I see my purpose in you. Like, you literally invited us on a podcast to talk about the most important thing in the world to us. Like, you are helping us drive our purpose forward. I am going to treat you like brethren because you are. So you see these people and everyone's like, damn, they just got it. They were born with it. No. Those people see their purpose in you. They move differently. I've seen real estate agents move differently because they see their purpose in so many things, and most people just see transactions.
100%. There is that energy, you know, and I think if I look at my example, for more than half of my career, you know, I've been doing this for like now 19 years, but through the first 3 years I was working with my mom, and there was like a purpose there, built something together. And then when I was working on my last team, there was no purpose. I was working for somebody that I wasn't really inspired by. I mean, they're a great person, but like, you know, individually, I was not inspired by it. And I just stayed there because my mindset, I just thought I couldn't do it on my own. I needed somebody to be working for, because I didn't feel like if I went on my own, people would respect me or that, you know, or just like, you know, take me seriously. And I think when I had that mindset shift, and right now, like, my purpose is like, I started a team. I probably started it way too soon, right? I wasn't ready to be a leader. But now I love to help people out. Like, now it's kind of like my newfound purpose. Like, I love helping these guys out, you know, that have less experience than I do, but they're hungry. And now I built like a little community, you know, within my sales organization of guys that I really love and I want to help. I'm also building my own business on the side too, and I also love helping people, you know, sell their house and buy houses as well. But I think my greater purpose is to really help people like Kyle, like Emin, like Christian, like Kate, like Tamara, you know, grow their own life, their own business, you know, and I think that's my greater purpose.
That is a phenomenon that we have seen like through the years consistently, which is, especially like we work with undergraduates, people who haven't even had a job yet, and we go through these purpose exercises, and sometimes it's hard for them, but always once we dig deep enough, and especially when you get to people with more life experience, the purpose ends up being something about other people and about contribution. It's really interesting to see. Like, sometimes it'll just be like, I just want to, you know, have enough money to change my circumstances or to do whatever, and it's kind of that financial, it's a goal disguised as purpose. But then you dig a little deeper, or they'll come back to us years later and be like, okay, I get it now. And it's actually about my community or my contribution or these other people that you're talking about. It's fun to see that evolution. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I played college soccer, and one of the things I missed the most about college soccer, it wasn't playing soccer. It was being on a team and collaborating together, and you know, beating teams or just going through the freaking struggle together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You hear that so much with ex-athletes.
Yeah,
like that, they just after the game.
I miss that, you know. Like, I have dreams sometimes where I don't want to wake up. Like, I want to be back into that time. It was so much fun, you know. And I'm starting to build that. You know, within my sales we have a small team, but we're so close. And I think the reason why we're so close is because I've done a lot of work on myself, personal growth on myself. Do you guys talk about that in your courses?
That is the course.
That is the course.
Yeah,
working on yourself.
We had to throw the sales part in there to make sure that it's academic, and we make sure that there's enough of that there. But the reality is, we created the class that we wish we had when we were 20 years old.
For sure.
And those lessons are not, you can go anywhere and read a lot of books, not that one, but a lot of books about how to build rapport or overcome objections or ask for the close.
Books, yeah.
All and that stuff's important. You started to hint at that earlier. Like, that stuff is important. You do need to know the X's and O's of selling. But for us, the stuff that's had a meaningful impact on our life is not necessarily just how do I sell something, but like, how do I think about it? Because it does apply to everything. So one of the best compliments we get almost every semester from at least one student is like, oh, I thought I was signing up for a sales class, but I was really signing up for a life class. And we're like, yes, we have succeeded. Like,
100%.
That's what we want. And same thing with the book. Sometimes people will say, oh, I'm not in sales. I don't know why I picked up this book, but like, I get it, because it's not really about selling products and services. It's about, as Colin said, it's about moving people. It's about the way that you think about things to make sure that you're changing your world and other people's world.
Well, that's
for sure.
That's the beauty in it. Like, if we're all selling ourselves, and we're all selling ideas, and we're all selling other people's ideas, and it's not yucky, right? But it's like empowering, and it's like important. If we're always selling something, and we're doing it within our own authentic self and then like, is the book really about selling authentically, or is it about living authentically?
Yeah. For
like,
sure.
We asked everybody, in every keynote, like, well, who's the greatest salesperson that you know, right? Or that you can think of? Yeah. Thousands of people we've asked this question. Yeah. Top two answers: Steve Jobs and Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the close third are like people's like partners, spouses, children. So it's like the idea of who a salesperson is so much more important and so much more transformational than just the stereotype and the stereotype threat that we all have to get over, right? Like, I don't know. I find that personal abundance versus scarcity such a core anchor in personal growth, right? Yeah. Garrett and I get to teach abundance versus scarcity to 18-year-olds for the first time.
For sure. I'm sure.
For the first time, we are teaching 18-year-olds. Now, we're doing it through the lens of lead generation, right? We tell them a story, like about, in the book, there's a story about the couch, the couch cushion. My number one salesperson comes on the couch, says, we got a problem. Your new rookie is hoarding leads. Bring the rookie on the couch. Next day, hey, we got to talk. He can't even listen to me because he keeps picking up couch cushions, complimenting me on how nice this couch is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He like stands up, puts his butt in my face, like flipping over couch cushions, trying to find who built this couch. I can't even talk to him about this problem I have with him because he's too busy, like enamored with this couch. I just sit back. Sometimes salespeople are weird. He finds the couch cushion. He finds the tag, flips it over like I'm not sitting in front of him, puts his laptop, goes up and goes, oh my God.
Your client.
They have 6,000 employees. They must need identity access management and cloud security. Can I call them? Yeah. Sure. Put the laptop away. All right, boss, what do you want to talk about? Absolutely nothing. You literally just found a deal in a couch cushion. Same couch cushion, my number one salesperson told me there were no deals on. And that person quickly became the number one salesperson. Like, when I tell that story to a college student for the first time, it doesn't matter if we're talking about abundance versus scarcity through a lens of lead generation. It is the first time that they are hearing that, like, what is so important in this profession, these human-centered essential skills, it is not the pitch. It is finding someone to pitch in a couch cushion versus, like, someone that expects just a different expectation of how this works.
Well, you also have a whole chapter about creative selling.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't think many sales books or many sales coaches talk about creativity.
Dude, we're going to tech companies and talking to engineers about this book. Engineer leaders are hiring us to come and talk to them about a sales mindset. Why would they want to do that? Because with AI and automation, right, that's obviously here and not going anywhere. Like the most important characteristic traits of these engineers are now not coding, but like what are the questions they're asking? Can they be creative? Can they be curious? Like can they create agency in the people that are working for them to want to, like what are the metacognition, self-awareness, like all of a sudden the skills that are most important in technology are the skills that were most important in sales, and they happen to be the skills that aren't being taught in school, which is why Garrett said that we are teaching the class that we wished we had in school.
100%.
Because like typically we're teaching a class and trying to get in front of their first boss, because you don't know what's going to happen. Their first boss could either be great, it could be like your girlfriend, or they could ruin them for the rest of their career.
Yeah, and I think it's important because that's also kind of like a sports thing too. It's like how many kids stop playing sports that could have been pro soccer players, basketball players, that their coach just screwed them up. You know, just messed up with their mindset.
It's mindset.
And then it's done.
Yep.
You know, so you guys are doing a service by helping these kids, honestly, you know, by helping these kids, you know, work on their mindset. So we talked about personal growth just a little bit, but I want to deep a little bit, you know, more into this, because I think this is really big, at least in my life. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of personal growth with men's groups, with, you know, ayahuasca, plant medicine stuff, where just kind of seeing different perspectives on things, and it's just eye-opening. What are some tools people can take on when looking at personal growth, right? Like obviously doing difficult things is important, but you guys have any tactical things about personal growth, or any like tips on what they can do to start that part of their life, at least being more self-aware of themselves to now uncover whatever is stopping them from doing things?
Yeah. For both of us who have been personal growth junkies for a really long time, it started with books. So that's where we tell our students to start. Like just find something that's interesting to you in one of those veins and read books about it and see where it leads. Because, you know, you read one or two and all of a sudden you find 6 more that are just as interesting. And you can start to pull out the gems and the things that work for you. One of the big tenets of our class and our book is that what works for one person might not work for everyone. There's no one right way to do things. So just giving yourself that breadth of experience and that breadth of perspectives with different books is probably the first way to go. Yeah. And then the second, which is something that I stole from Colin a long time ago, is stay in the gym. And we tell this to students who are struggling all the time too, which is like, you know, they'll be like, I'm in a rut. And well, when's the last time you tried something new that you read about in a book? Well, I haven't read a book in 3 years. Like you have to stay in the gym and work out that personal growth muscle. Yeah. And you know, we go through it too every once in a while. There'll be a lull and we'll kind of have to egg each other on. Here's a new book or a new concept or this one's about health. This one's about mindset. So I would say those are the two obvious ones is start with books and then stay in the gym and make sure that you continue to focus on that consistently so that you don't lose that muscle.
And there's never been a time in our life where it's easier to find these things. I mean, you can just go on ChatGPT. It'll be your coach. But I think also accountability is also important too.
Sure.
Or like a mentor.
That's nice.
You know.
Yeah, I think the challenge with all of us is that we all have access to the same. To your point, we all have access to the same tools. Yeah. We all have access to ChatGPT. We all have access to the same books, the same podcasts, the same YouTube channels. But in any given sales organization, you got like 20% of the team that's thriving and 80% trying to figure it out. Yeah. Yet the whole organization heard the exact same words. Like you will give this video to the team and they will all hear the same words, but they will do different things with it. So like for us, you know, if you look at I'm just looking at this book, which I love. It's such a labor of love. But like if you look at the chapters of the book and like if you didn't know it was a sales book, chapter 1 is about authenticity. Chapter 2 is about ignoring the things that will make you inauthentic. Chapter 3 is about growing your mindset. Chapter 4 is about optimism. Chapter 5 is about how can you look for the good in the place that you normally don't. Mm-hmm. Chapter 6 is about transforming, not transactional. Chapter 8 is about creativity. Chapter 9 is about goals versus purpose. Mm-hmm. Like, if you didn't know this was a sales book, you would think it was a personal development book.
Yeah.
So thinking about interviewing people, like I love like when students are going, we do an interview class. What students don't realize is everybody at USC looks the same, proverbially.
Looks the same?
Yeah, they're all smart enough, right? They're all smart
yeah.
enough, right? Like they all had internships. They all probably got around the same grades. Like what will differentiate them when they go into the interview? Like it is these durable skills, right? These mindset skills, these essential skills. And like how do you even grow them? Like we will have conversations with our our class about that. Like when you think about personal development, you think about like question asking. Like, how do you teach someone to ask a question they actually want to know the answer to?
Yeah.
That's not in a business class. Like, that is a personal thing. Like, you have to personally be invested to want to know something that most people don't. And then you hear these theories, right? Like, great salespeople are remembered for their questions, not their statements. The question is, why do they want to know the answer to a question most people don't? That is a personal development story, right? That's not a professional development story. If you look at interviewing people, we are trying to interview you too. You're trying to interview for people and hire people that have the hard stuff already figured out. You know how long it's going to take to teach someone to be competitive? Personal development. You know how long it's going to teach someone to look for the good in their customers? Personal development. You know how long it's going to teach someone to be self-aware? The most dangerous person in the room is a person that lacks self-awareness. You know how long it would take? So let me hire the people that have that. Give me a person that's optimistic, competitive, like has grit, resilience, can tell me about the time that they've lost and how like it didn't phase them. I don't need to hear the winning story. Like, let me hear the struggle. That's all personal development. I'll teach you X's and O's. Mm-hmm. I'll teach you like about APR.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's
like,
easy. Yeah.
But the hard part is like that. Not what you're doing, but like how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean,
I want to add, because I think what you're doing is really interesting. If you ask great salespeople what their favorite books are, they're all personal development.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it doesn't matter if you're reading spin selling, if you don't actually, if you're a knower and not a learner, you know what I mean? Like, so anyways, I could go on for hours.
No, and look, I mean, I think we live in areas where personal growth is pretty big, which is cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we are, we're influencers, but we're also being influenced by the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, which is great. But like, at least for me, again, there was a long period of my life that I didn't read a book. I mean, 15 years, no reading any books. And then, from when I started coaching, it was just like, 3 or 4 books a year. I'm a slow reader, right? But I don't know. I guess my question is, there is this tendency for people that it's really hard to get into this personal growth part. And there's a fear of changing. There's a fear of something. They're not self-aware. Like, I have family like this, close family. I have friends that I just want to just like shake, like, yo.
Yeah.
Like, can you please be more self-aware? You can't really tell somebody. They have to uncover it themselves. That's the thing.
That's the agency.
It's a huge theme in the book and the class and everything that we talk about is that agency. Like,
that's the question.
How do you give somebody the agency to make that their own idea? And by the way, that's selling. To get somebody that you care about to make a change in their life that you think that you genuinely believe would be good for them. That is the literal dictionary definition of selling.
That's your hard selling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you do that?
And the folks who do it the best are the ones who you can't force that on somebody.
No, you can't.
If it's the other person's idea, that's when it's going to stick.
100%.
And that's what to you because you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the amount of people in this world that think about your team. Like, how much value do they really add by asking questions? Like, most of the time they're extracting value.
Yeah.
Tell me, show me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Me.
Yeah,
And you got to, right? Like, it's part of the discovery process.
What's
We
your
get
budget?
it, right?
What's your timeline?
But it's take.
100%.
There's like a rare breed of individuals on this planet that can add value by asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That if you could ask someone a question they've never heard before and they ideate on that answer for the first time in real time, that is their answer. They own it. You didn't sell them on anything. Like, that was a gift. If you asked them a question they never heard before, they came up with the answer on their own for the first time and you left and never saw them again, you literally gave them a gift. Yeah. So when you think about like these people that need to be converted into wanting to do better instead of thinking that this is it, it's going to come from their own answers.
100%. Yeah.
From people that care differently. Therefore want to know the answers to different questions. Yeah. Garrett said it earlier, it's like sometimes we'll get in a lull and we'll just like, I read 3 personal development books like a month.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not proud of it. Like, at least he adds in some novels every now and again. Like,
I'll throw in some fiction, some classics. He's like, nope, I'm just going through the entire personal development list.
It doesn't matter. Positive psychology, personal development. Like, I'll end up I'll end up all over the place. But it is just a constant reminder to be the person I want to be. Because I will forget. Like, at 11 p.m. on a really long day with a scary Monday ahead of me, I might forget to be grateful. I might forget that I'm in the best part of the movie right now. And so Garrett and I were talking earlier. I was in one of these lulls, and I was speaking to Garrett about, like, I've just been doing some research. I've been thinking. I've been just trying, like, because that's what you do, right? Like, how do you get out of this place? Yeah. That's self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Like, self-awareness is not, I am the person that does not, I'm a person that does not listen. I wait to speak. That's not necessarily self-awareness. Like, self-awareness is looking in the mirror and saying, yeah, you are that person, and you better figure it out and label it and look for it so that you're not the person that you don't want to be. So, like me, I've been thinking a lot about this concept of, like, vigor recently. Like, it's like it's just like a word, and I don't really understand the definition of it. And, like, I randomly started asking myself, like, when I'm in my lull, is it because I don't have vigor for something that I like? And like when I have vigor for something, there's no lulls, right? It's like I care more than most people care about the thing that I care about in that moment. And so when I listen to you talking about like you getting back this passion for your team, right? Or like Garrett, like his story about like wanting to like get away from like not having vigor for the law and like that contentious like time stamping, like that immediately brought me out of my place. That was a personal development exploration that I randomly thought about because some random book talked about passion, and I was like, oh, that's what it is. I don't think I've been passionate for the last 4 years. You know?
Yeah. Well, and this is actually a really good point that I kind of been like thinking about is, you know, you guys know like your 5 or 6 chakras, right?
Yep.
And you have your heart center, which is like your energy center. And when you're going through a breakup, you have no energy.
Yeah.
You are exhausted. You don't have any energy. But when you're in love, you know, the first, 6 months, you go to the gym every day. You have someone, you get up, you're feeling good, you know. And I think this also has to do with, like love what you do. Because if you don't, you're not going to have the energy to do it, you know.
That's that Ray Lewis quote.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a lot of people don't even know the parts of the job that they do love. Like just that exercise of like, okay, in an 8-hour day, what parts do I really love? Yeah. Because it's easy to talk about the parts you don't love. Like that chapter, Intentional Ignorance, is like, it's about Dharma. Yeah. That's what that chapter is about. It's like, could I wake up every day and love what I do? And the stuff that I don't love doing, that I'm just acting like I do, like, is there someone on my team that could wake up every day that actually loves it?
Yeah. And by the way, if there's not, that's what you're getting paid for. Yeah. So like, we talk a lot about the contrast between logic and emotion. And, we feel like we sort of represent those things individually, which is kind of interesting part of our friendship.
Yeah. I'm the logical one.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I was just like,
No, we got Mr. Right. You've heard him filibustering over here for the last hour. So you can even take that concept and wrap it up in logic. Like, okay, I've got, call it a 40-hour work week. How many of those hours am I doing the things I love? And say it's 10, right? 30 hours early in your career. Ideally, as your career goes on, the balance shifts.
Yeah,
but say early in your career, you're doing 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week, you're doing something you love. The other 30 hours suck. Well, guess what? You just got a 25% pay raise because that 10 hours you're doing for free. Now they're paying you for the 30 hours. And that alone can shift your mindset.
I like that.
Super logical, super mathematical, but for the logical folks like me, that's super helpful for a mindset shift. It's like, I'm doing 25% of the things in my first job here that I love doing. You don't have to pay me for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the the emails and the meetings or whatever it is that you don't like, that's what you're getting paid for. Suddenly you just got a big pay raise, and you can then start the game then becomes, how do I shift it? Now how do I make it 15 hours a week that I'm doing what I love? And that's where the intentional ignorance chapter and the intentional ignorance concept comes in, where it's like, are there people in my organization who do these things better than me, who talk about these things, who are more passionate about it or more knowledgeable about it? And if so, can I bring them into the fold so that they're doing some of this stuff? And then suddenly the balance is shifting a little bit more. And that's been a fun challenge really for us. Is just how do you get as close to 40 out of 40 hours doing what you love? Nobody does. Like, that's impossible. That's the pipe dream.
Agreed.
Like the happiest employee in the world, I'm assuming there's some part of their job that they don't love. Of course. But if you can shift that balance, suddenly you're getting a lot more money for the stuff that they're paying you for.
What's the ratio that you think that we should be at? 75-25?
That's a solid, impactful question.
That was-
I've never
yeah.
thought about
Yeah.
the actual.
do
Maybe
you
in the
guys
next
think,
book
like-
we codify that. But
You know what I was
How about
gonna
you
say-
guys? Like,
I was
what-
going to tell you, that wouldn't work for me, which is why I love me and Garrett's
Yeah.
our relationship, and why intentional ignorance chapter is so important. Because what works for one person wouldn't work for another.
Yeah.
Like that is like that has got Garrett all over him. And then when you said it, you were like, oh, that's right. Like there's someone that would sit in that chair and be like, no, I could never. That wouldn't motivate me. But that's the beauty, right? Like we just want to give people this label. Really successful people figure out a way to ignore the parts of their jobs that do not bring them authentic energy. Like, or they're looking for the parts in their job that do. Now, how you achieve that, that's the difference between a knower and a learner, right? Like Garrett is embodying being a learner because this is his authentic approach to that. Completely different than someone else's. And what we want people to do is read this book and be like, what does that mean to me? Period. And we had, like, my favorite story in that book is the advertising technology exec that like admitted that she hated advertising technology. Like, how do you become so good at ad tech and you hate tech? But that was her answer to our question when we said, when was it? When did you figure out you were better at this than most people? Her answer was, when I admitted to myself I do not like technology. And the next time someone asked me a question about an API or some tech configuration, I said, I don't know, but I promise I will go and find someone that does. And she said for the rest of her career, she knew she would get more credit for being resourceful, what she enjoyed doing, connecting dots, finding people, fighting for people, bringing people in. She said she'd see a lot of people that would always fizzle out because they always had the damn answer. So it was like, you were waiting to speak because you already had the answer. People smell that a mile away. It's like, well, if you already have the answer, then like,
Why?
what do you need me for in this? That's that agency.
No, I love that part of the book because I haven't really done the exercise. I've noticed what things I do like to do, like this kind of stuff I like to do. I haven't really made money doing this stuff yet. I know, well, I don't know, but I think there's a feeling inside me, and I talked to my coach. He's like, Paul, just keep doing what you love to do, and over time, you'll start to see that it'll bring you business, and maybe at some point you do something different, you know? Like I love watching Matthew McConaughey. You know, like what an inspiring dude. You know, like he was just the rock star with these like rom-coms. And then he's like, you know what? I don't want to do any more freaking rom-coms. It's not bringing me any love or energy. Like I just want to quit doing that. And that could have killed his whole career, you know? And he also talks about how he was, you know, because I'm single, and he talks about when he was single too, he was constantly looking for somebody. Like, oh, you know, this girl can be my wife. This girl can be my wife. You know, girls walking in the grocery store or on the street, and he just constantly looking. And the moment he just sat back and said, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm just going to let life just kind of flow, you know? And that's something that for me has been a little bit difficult. I think I've been trying to, you know, fit a square peg into a round hole. And I think more like lately I've been trying to be more intuitive. You know, how can I be more intuitive? And I think this book kind of talks about that, is intuition.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really talk about intuition. It's kind of a woo-woo thing, you know, because it's like, it's kind of hard to grasp intuition.
Yeah.
What is it?
We're not scared of woo-woo.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know you guys.
Scared of
I know you
woo-woo.
guys are not, but like, let's talk about intuition, because like, you know, you guys, I feel like intuitively have just let, you know, you were a lawyer, but then afterwards you're like, I want to quit this because it doesn't feel right. A lot of people in your shoes, 30 years down the line, they're miserable, and they just spent 30 years of their life being a lawyer, and they hated it. They hated it. And not only do they hate it, but that goes into their and how they treat their kids and their wife and all that stuff. Yeah. You know, this is our purpose, right? What we do every single day. So let's talk about intuition, because I'm really passionate about this right now. Is like tapping into that. How do you guys tap into that?
Well, I'll start by saying what seems like really good intuition is probably a lot of luck, especially early on.
Okay.
Like the job that I took after leaving the law, that could have been any company, but it happened to be this company. And if that didn't happen, we're not sitting here, because I don't move on with that next group to the next company, and I don't meet Colin and all that stuff. So like, there is a lot of luck there. But to directly answer your question or discuss the topic that you're posing here, I do think intuition is really important. And I think that, like, we advise students all the time to trust their gut. Like we're really lucky. We have almost 700 students that have come through our class now, and many of them stay in touch with us and will come back to office hours and have conversations with us. And now some of them are 6-7 years into a career.
Wow.
And we get to talk to them. And so a lot of times they'll come with a challenge. This is happening at work. I want to change careers, industries, whatever. And I would say 99 times out of 100, if not 100 times out of 100, the students have the answers that they come to us looking for already. It's just a matter of like asking them the right question and getting them to realize, oh, my intuition was there all along. Like I actually know that this is a shitty opportunity and I should go to that one. And we'll never tell them that. We're not going to tell them one opportunity is shitty and the other one's not. But we'll ask them some questions. And a lot of times, by the time they leave, the answer was already there. And so I've sort of extrapolated that from our office hours where we get to practice this at scale into just conversations that we have every day. And I think it holds true. Like most of us we know ourselves better than anyone else. We know our circumstances better than anyone else. And the intuition is there. Now, whether it's a fear to act or not enough information, or whether there's probably a dozen different reasons
and that's
that you
the
don't
ego.
trust your gut.
Yeah. The ego gets in the way. And the ego's trying to like protect you from something. But like there's nothing to protect you from.
So maybe that's the question then, is like, how do you get that ego out of the way to let your intuition help you with those decisions? And there's probably a ton of answers for that too.
I think I like that you care about the topic. You know what I mean? I have not thought about how intuition has played a role in my life. I've thought a lot about like failing forward. I've thought a lot about being grateful for the things that have happened in my life that I wish didn't happen. I could look back and connect all the dots looking backwards. I think that like for the context, especially when I keep thinking about your team, because I care about your team because it's so obvious you care so much about your team, just like to bring this whole full circle. But like when I think about intuition, I think about we all have it. And the ego part is, do we show it? And what we found in the book is the greats are really good at showing their intuition, like at saying the quiet part out loud. Like Garrett talks about the office hours. Like every year, the students come in and they tell us, it seems like everyone in the class has got it figured out except for me. I have no idea what I want to do. And like, I've got this interview and I'm so nervous and I really don't want them to think that I'm just some punk USC kid with a rich dad. And that's the only reason that I got this interview, even though it is. The only reason I got this interview is because my parents know the hiring manager's manager. Like, just what do I do? Like, and their intuition that they're saying out loud to us is it like, this is really hard to navigate. But they want to show up to the interview perfect. They want to have that part figured out and then show up and just talk about the right side of the equal sign. And so when they ask us what to do, we say that.
Be vulnerable.
Show them the left part of the equal sign. In the book, we call it showing your work, like in math class. Like you got credit for showing your work. So like they go into this interview and they go, I just have to tell you, this has been the hardest interview to prep for. Like I talked about it with my professors. It's kept me up late at night. Like I just didn't want you to think that I was just some privileged USC kid. And the only reason that I got this interview was because, so-and-so knows so-and-so. And like through hours and hours of research and deliberating, like how do I get over this? What I found was, and a lot of times we'll hear things like, I found out who your mentor was and how important it is to be a mentor and to have a mentor. And like, so now full circle, like I'm here in a whole nother place, but I just want you to know, like, it wasn't an easy place to get to. See, the person on the other side of that chair immediately sees themselves in you. That's sales, right? Like the only thing we have in common is imperfection. Like I'm not from Colombia, right? I'm half black, half white, and Jewish, but we're both 41. But outside of that, right? Like, but it's like, so what do we have in common? We're both imperfect. One of us is going to try to be really perfect, and the other one's going to be like, that feels yucky because I am not actually that inside. The minute that like you show somebody that you're imperfect, they're like, oh, you're just like me. That's a hard thing to like get over in a professional setting, except that is the secret sauce.
Well, you have a whole chapter on that. It's like being vulnerable, not knowing all the answers. What chapter is that?
Well, it's a couple of chapters, but the intentional ignorance chapter.
There you go. That one.
Yeah, chapter 2.
Yeah.
But authenticity and vulnerability like weave their way through it. Showing your work is the same concept. Like we're talking about vulnerability. We're talking about people that were talking to themselves out loud. Like we were interviewing people and they were talking to themselves out loud. Like, Jason, why do you keep doing that? Colin and Garrett, can we start this interview over again? And we're sitting there and we're like, oh shit, we're inside of his head. For 3 seconds, he wasn't selling us. That micro moment of connection. And then we're just looking for the good the whole entire time. Now, Garrett will tell you, better not weaponize anything in that book.
That's right.
Right? Because it's
going to backfire. Yeah.
We'll smell it.
Yeah.
No,
all
those
of a
aren't
sudden,
talking.
and that goes back to the 20% and the 80% that we were talking about earlier. Because maybe the 80% is like, oh, well, all these great people are talking to themselves out loud. I'm going to talk to myself out loud in front of this next client and ingratiate myself. But that's the point is not the talking to yourself out loud. It's the vulnerability to be vulnerable enough to let them into the thought process. And if you're weaponizing it, it doesn't work. So, and you can weaponize any sales tactic, any sales strategy, any of that stuff. And that's we see is a big part of why it fails for so many people, because they're like, oh, okay, I've got this tactic now. That's not it. It's about giving yourself permission to show up as the best version of yourself.
That's the intuition you're talking about.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
It's the customer's intuition that's way more important than our intuition.
100%.
Like there's something that we interview Hime Watt, big investor, great guy, co-founder of MoviePass, like just he's doing incredible things in this space. And we've asked him like, when do you invest in people? Like, what is it about the sales pitch, like from an investor? And he's like, there's something inside of my gut. I'm not sure what it is, but I just know to say no. And when we started peeling it back, it was this too good to be true. Like it just seemed too perfect. And at the core, we all know we're imperfect.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so he just couldn't connect to that.
it's just, because you can't connect.
Yeah.
His intuition told him that there's something that's just not off, that it's not right. If we had more time, we could talk about the science behind it, but they're right.
Yeah. No, it just like, for me, it's when we're at a listing appointment. That's the most important thing for every real estate agent is that listing appointment. So when I was reading that chapter, I was a little confused because like we are, our coach always tells us, be the knowledge broker, and always try to know everything. But what you're saying is a little counterintuitive, but it makes sense because once you become more real, like, hey, you know what? That's a great question. I don't know that, but I'm going to find out for you.
Yeah, you know how different you sound when you're having a conversation about something that you are genuinely passionate about or that you know a ton about versus the stuff, the conversations you have where you're kind of faking it.
Trying to bullshit.
So what we're not saying you can ignore everything. In every profession, especially in real estate, there are things that you have to know to do your job, to not sound like an idiot. Yeah. There's the table stakes. But above and beyond that, what are the things that you don't necessarily have to know or be excited about because you have the resources in the room around you? And we've changed a lot of people's thinking on how they approach their job and how they approach the selling that they do every day, just by asking themselves that question. Like, what am I knowing because I think I'm supposed to know it, or versus what I have to actually know? Yeah. And are there other resources I can use instead?
I like that. It took me a while to really get that.
Yeah.
To like
the easy way to codify it is just to think about the word know-it-all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Nobody likes know-it-all. Yeah.
Nobody. So it's when someone tells you to know everything, just remember no one likes to know it all. Yeah. And so then it's like, all right, I can know everything in this vein, but I better come extremely curious. Because people love talking about themselves, and if you're curious and it's impactful, and you're asking questions that most people don't, they're like, damn, I want this person around me. They make me better just by the questions they ask. You hear it all the time. Like, I've never heard that question before. Deep down that's a compliment.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, like I've taken a lot of sales courses, and one of the best ones was Phil Collins, and he talks about just how can you ask better questions, and he gives you just like small little phrases in the beginning to just like prepare the question in a better way. And he's like, the more questions you ask, the more trust you build on the other side. And then at that point, once you've built that trust, then it's easier to, influence them to do, whatever you want them to do.
And I feel like that's where we come in, because the mindset of, am I asking them those questions to build trust, or am I asking them those questions because I genuinely want to know the answer to those questions, and therefore it's going to build trust? There's a big chasm between those two mindsets. And so I want to call that out as
that's
kind of where we sit. Yeah,
that's important.
And that's the 80-20. The 80 are going to be like, I'm going to ask these questions because it's going to build trust, which it's true, but you're missing something really important, which is the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, we've done a lot of real estate keynotes, like big company keynotes, and there has been a common theme for us, which is hitters, typically older, which means they've been hitters for decades. They'll come to us and, without calling out the firm, like in tears sometimes, like just really successful people crying, and they'll say, I didn't know why I was so good until I heard you. Like typically we're not teaching somebody something new, right? Typically we are just labeling what they already do. But if you can label it, right, then all of a sudden you can be intentional about it. It's like, damn, I never really knew that I was asking questions that nobody else wanted to know. But like, I guess I have been, because like I care differently. And then we can take that and be like, okay, so like moving forward, how could you prepare differently for all of your meetings? So you could show up like that, not just accidentally, when it's so obvious that you want to know the answer that most people don't. Like, how could you shift your research? Like listing appointments is the best, because you actually have time to do some research on someone before you come in.
This is your 3x3 thing.
Falling in love.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is my best friend Garrett Brown. This is not the best version of himself. The best version of him is when he was 13 years old and he had a crush on like his junior high school crush. Because like when she made a joke that wasn't funny, that no one laughed, he laughed because he actually thought it was funny. Right? Like when you're enamored with somebody, like when you're looking for the good in someone, you'll find it.
That first 6 months you were talking about earlier, you know, it all ties together.
You got to show up to these meetings and you have to be looking for the good in your clients. And a lot of us are showing up to these meetings looking for the objections they're already about to give us. Right? If you're looking for the good in someone, if you're dying to know the answer to a question that most people don't because you've done research and you're looking, you can't fall in love with someone that you don't know. You could fall in love with the idea of who they are. You could spend 3 minutes of research and find 3 things that you hope are true about them. And you show up to that meeting and you're like, so I saw Coachella on your LinkedIn. Like, was that, and they're like, oh yeah, I love Kid Cudi. And you're like, oh, and all of a sudden you're talking about Cudi for 12 minutes when the other person walked in the room and they were like, okay, let's talk about square footage. They have a question like, yes, that's Bosch, you know?
Yeah, no, it's. I think that's so key. It's like trying to find, and those are like you don't have a lot of tactics in your book. It's called more mindset stuff, but that was a really good tactic that I really liked. Like that I've done, but sometimes I just forget to do it going into listing appointments, and then when I have done it, I'm like, all right, I see why it's important to at least try to find some commonalities that you can. It's just easy, like kind of almost like icebreakers.
It's the same thing about energy and showing up as the best version of yourself. Just like you sound different when you know about something and you're excited to talk about it, you sound different when you show up excited to have a conversation. And in a lot of industries, you're dialing the phone 100 times a day and you've been hung up on 37 times. How do you show up on that 38th call when they actually give you that 10 seconds as the most enthusiastic, best version of yourself? And that's what that exercise is all about.
Yeah, and you know what? You're in real estate, and most people that are watching this might be. So your industry is commoditized like most industries, which means I know you might think that you're better than most people, like your firm is better, but like to the average Joe Schmo, like you're not that much different. People are going to spend money with who they'd rather spend more time with.
100%. Who they like.
So it's like the answer, as knowledgeable as you are, like at the end of the day, it's the USC analogy. Like you're all smart. Or you all wouldn't be here, right? There's a high bar to get into Hilton High. So it's like you're all smart, you're all here, and the buyer is going to decide to go with a certain agent based on what? If you're all smart, it's just going to be based on who they'd rather spend more time with, and that doesn't mean that they're going to base it on who they think looks like them or is like them the most. They're going to have to feel it, like, oh, this person sees me because I can see myself in them. That will always come down to vulnerability. It doesn't matter if you're identical twins. They will not choose you if they can't see themselves in you.
Yeah, for sure.
That comes from wanting to know questions that most people don't.
Yeah. So I had a question. We're going to flip this a little bit. So I read the book. It's called The Alter Ego Effect. I'm sure you guys have read it.
I know it well, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about that because that is, I don't know if that's authentic or not, but it's kind of going against what you guys are saying. It's like, put on these shoes or put on this hat or put on these glasses or whatever to get into this mode, like Black Mamba, you know, Kobe Bryant, you know, it's like he got into that mode and he was a killer on the court, right?
Yeah.
So just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
We don't think that's inauthentic at all.
Okay.
The authentic version of you in this office the same as the authentic version of you when you're with your parents or you're dating a girl for the first time or what, like we all have all these different authentic versions of ourselves. The authentic version of Colin and Garrett on stage in front of a couple thousand people is still authentically us, but it's probably not the same as if we're in a classroom with our 60 students. It's slightly different, and that's okay. And so absolutely being able to use the alter ego effect and all the tips that book is brilliant, and we recommend it often. To use that to be able to shift between versions of yourself is completely okay, in our opinion. That you don't have to be just one way all the time, as long as it's authentically you in each of those situations, and you're not doing it to try to fake yourself out or other people. Great.
I almost bought a big ass gold chain. We had this conversation a long time ago, just to hide it. Just to put it under my shirt before I go to keynotes. To like channel
that, like
the 16-year-old version of me who thought that like the epitome of success was like to be Jay-Z and to have this chunky Cuban link, and like it meant so much more, right? Like, because now I'm 41, I look at 16.
Now I know what I'm getting him for Christmas next year.
It wasn't
Chrismica.
It wasn't about what I thought it was about, right? It was about this like you felt like, man, I would feel bigger. I feel more powerful. I feel more confident if like I had that, right? Like I have, after reading The Alter Ego Effect, like I thought about, I had an excuse to go and buy a chunky ass chain and just wear it under. And I didn't. But that's the reason why I love that book. Because it wasn't about showing the world your alter ego. Like it was about the conversation that you were having with yourself. Black Mamba was so authentic, Kobe. It's scary. That nobody else can even recreate it or manufacture.
That's why he's become like the example of hard work and competition. Because that was him. Like you can't fake that, what he did.
No, you can't.
The results are proof that you can't fake 100%.
That. So I employ a lot of those tactics. Like
same.
I love that book.
One last question to kind of wrap things up, and then we'll talk about your New Year's resolutions or your goals, and then we'll ask a couple of good questions. If we're working with a client, right, that we don't feel a connection with, we got the business, we got the listing. I've had a lot of these, so this is like more of like a personal question, you know. Somebody that is draining. I mean, I think I kind of already know the answer to this. Just fire them, you know.
Intuition.
But like, you know, it's and yeah, I guess there's not really a question here, but I'm sure you guys get this a lot too.
Yeah, you show your work. Like before you fire them. Like show your work. Like show up to me like, hey, look, I have been thinking about this and I've been working through it, and I've asked so many different mentors of mine. Like for some reason, like we're just lacking a connection. And I'm not sure like if it's me or if it's you. I've been doing a lot of work. So I want to check in. Right? Like the story I'm telling myself is that X, Y, Z, right? You don't trust me, blah, blah, blah. In the book, there's an example of someone that went through the exact same thing, and I think the question on the other end is like when will you look for the good in what I'm saying?
It was Bob. It was a lawyer. Who had to represent a client that he wasn't really in tune with, and he had a very similar conversation to that, and realized that person had a similar background, was going through a challenge that was similar to a challenge that the lawyer was going through. And when he realized that and understood kind of the why behind the behavior, they hit it off immediately and had a great working relationship.
That's, you know, I'm just thinking about some clients that I don't talk to anymore. That would
it's a tough conversation sometimes. It's not easy.
Just to get a little bit more vulnerable with them, you know.
What was the other? There's another conversation in the book where it was a customer and the prospect just kept like tearing them down for no reason. And then there's this great story. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But I think it's in the book. If it's not, we must have edited it. But it's like this story of this person and that we interviewed, and they just kept getting beat down by the prospect. But the customer was doing but the salesperson was doing all the right things. But they were just looking for the bad in them because there's this hierarchy, right? Like of salesperson. And then eventually they asked us such an impactful question. I have to find it. But it was something around the lines of like, when are you going to look for reasons to believe in me?
I like that. Yeah.
Because that's the idea, right? Like you want people to look for the good in you. You want people to look, and there was like a shift, which was it doesn't happen until you look for reasons to believe in the people that you're talking to. So when you show up to a listing and a meeting and you know it's a competitive situation, 9 out of 10 people are going to go in there on defense and try to like protect what's theirs and like
100%,
make sure that they
yeah.
look better and probably show up as a knower, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like these rare people that do the exact opposite.
Yeah, yeah. I've been really thinking about that because I've been going through, I think, a few clients a year where it's just tough and it's draining, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been putting it more into my like mindset, into my energy. It's like attract people that are like you, attract people that you like, because that's going to give you energy to want to work with them, you know, want to talk to them. And we are attracting those people, which is great. You're like seeing, oh wow, I had a client the other day. You know, he's looking for a $10 million house, right? Big commission. And then ends up being that he sold his company, so he can't use that money because that money's tied up with the company for like 5 years. And so he's like, hey, I'm going to lease. Okay, well, that's fine. Hey, I'm happy to help you. You're a great guy, you know. He ends up finding his own lease through his own network, and he still pays me. For not doing anything. I mean, I still helped him out, you know, like we showed him a bunch of properties, but he's such a good person. He's like, you know what, I'm still going to pay you, Paul, you know? And I think it also takes that kind of mindset of like, all right, this is what I want to attract, and just put it out there, and the world will give it to you.
Man, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about 2025. We're already a quarter century into this century, which is insane. I remember 2000. I was a junior in high school.
Crazy, right?
I was too young to remember that. So.
College?
Yeah.
College?
Yeah. Graduated college
already.
Not
First job,
sure,
lawyer.
Smack in the middle of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I remember driving my Honda Prelude down Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood.
Oh, really?
At 2000, like, because everyone thought it was Y2K.
Yeah.
And my buddy snuck out the
yes.
house because his mom was like super religious and thought it was gonna be like the end of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
And we were in gridlock traffic.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was gonna happen. And then 11:59, and then 12, and it was like we were right in front of Pink Dot. I'll never forget.
Everything still works.
And every car just stopped on Sunset, and like people just got out of the car. It was
Oh, that's cool.
because we're the
That's a
same
story.
age. I could just tell you that.
That's cool.
2000. Yeah. So 2025.
Yeah. So what are your intentions this year? Like, do you guys have goals, or do you have like? I know a lot of people get into these goals, and then I think it's like January 16th, which is
Quitter's Day or
something like that. Like, what do you guys do? Like, in terms of like reflection for the new year, what do you guys do? And then what are your goals this year?
Yeah.
Start by looking back at the year before.
Yep.
Seeing, I sort of just, this year, I do it different every year, and sometimes I'll find like a framework. This year, I sort of just did it on my own, and my process this year was shorter than normal, which was I looked back, what were the most memorable events, accomplishments, things like that of the previous year. And what interesting, it was like they all ended up being moments. Like, one of my buddies got married in Europe, and so I was in Europe with all my friends and their wives, and like we had the best time. And that was a whole week and a half. But the memories that I have are literally just like snapshot moments. And so I sort of decided, okay, I'm going to focus most of my like intention in 2025 on chasing those moments instead of just big things. Those are kind of more personal and not as interesting to talk about. So I'll give you the answer that you thought you were asking, the question you thought you were asking, which is like just standard resolutions. I have too many, and if you have too many, you don't get them done. So my 3 big ones. Okay. I picked up the guitar again last year for the first time in about 15 years, like seriously. Nice. And I practice every day. Okay. And so I have some weekly practice goals that I've set for myself based on some books and exercises and things that I do. So that one is like my personal growth one, is that I want to, by the end of the year, to measure if I've done a good job, I want to be able to go into a room with somebody who's a little bit better at guitar than me and jam with them and hold my own. Fun. And nice. I'm close to that, but like after a year of working every day, I'll be ready to jam with somebody. The second one is the one we were talking about before we hit record, which is I have all these different kind of income streams, whether it's our business. I've got a little AI startup that I work on. We're professors. And some real estate investments and things like that. I don't have a physical product, and Colin's right. I did talk about this one last year and failed on it. So this year I would like to come up with some kind of just something to learn how to sell something on Amazon or wherever the outlet may be. Not to make a whole bunch of money, but just to build that skill set. Yeah. And then what was my third one? You go, and if I remember the third one and it's interesting, I'll say it, and if it's not, then you guys can just be left. So
you got a couple personal ones and then a couple.
Always try to mix it up.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I compartmentalize too, like health, revenue, right? Like family security, Like this year, well, first of all, what was an interesting last year, similar resolutions on the health side. No fried food. I'll just speak for myself, but there's a lot that we hang out. No fried food for a year.
Okay.
Cheating was tortilla chips.
Okay.
And no dessert.
Okay.
And cheating would be like sweet alcoholic beverages.
Okay.
So for an entire year, I basically did that.
Okay.
And so from January 1st to January 15th, I
Uh-huh.
ate as many fried chicken sandwiches as you can imagine. And I had a lot of soft chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
And now I've stopped, and
Yeah.
so I'm going to resume that because I
Yeah.
felt great last year.
Yeah.
So no fried food, no desserts. There might be some exceptions.
No.
So there's that. I love fashion. Like
Mm-hmm.
it brings me joy. Like it's not about like if people know the brand. It just brings me so much joy. I love creativity. I love watching. I love expressing other people's creativity.
Mm-hmm.
It's differentiating the whole thing. But I spend too much money on it.
Okay.
So my New Year's resolution now is every dollar I spend on clothing, and I'm including my wife, who
Yeah.
unfortunately has the same
Oh,
love
man.
and zest for
Oh, wow.
creativity.
Yeah.
Every dollar spent on clothing is a dollar invested.
Smart. Smart.
So we're doing that.
All right.
And then from a family perspective, last year I picked up golf.
Okay.
I did it for business, and it turned into this like family thing.
It's
where
fun.
My wife enjoys it.
Yeah.
My kids ate
not easy,
and loves
man.
it. My
Yeah.
5-year-old will just join whatever the 8-year-old does.
Cool.
And so this year, I would like to be good enough to like when someone asks me what my handicap is, be able
You
to
know.
tell them. As opposed
Yeah,
to
I
like,
don't know
"Huh?
either.
I'm
I'm
healthy.
so
What
bad."
are you talking about? You know.
You thought your age was high.
And then my, you know we're the same age, right?
I'm talking about your handicap.
Yeah, yeah.
That wasn't making fun of your age. That was making fun of your handicap.
I'll be fine.
sir.
I'll be fine. This is gonna be my year of golf, and then cooking.
Okay.
I want to cook for my family once a week, and currently that has been a goal of mine for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And it has never come true.
Okay.
So this year it's going to be a purpose,
Okay.
right? Which is like providing for my family and speaking my wife's love language. So now I'm tying the goal to the purpose in hopes that I actually do it. So FDIC.
Ever been hunting before?
Trick question?
No, I'm just being honest.
No.
Okay. Because
Like, what are you asking? Hunting for what?
Have you got for animals
yeah.
To eat, actually eat?
Yeah, no.
Because I went hunting for the first time in Alaska last year in September.
Yeah.
One of my friends invited me. It was an amazing experience. But there's something about men going hunting and learning how to cut the deer, whatever it is, and getting that meat out and cooking it and eating it. There's something like archaic about it that is like energizing and makes you just feel, I guess, more alive, more of a man, I guess.
It's
you can
interesting you say that because my wife is the one that agrees with you.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if you
got it.
take the word man out,
Yeah.
like my wife would sit here and
Yeah.
be like, she's already talked about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there are these like expeditions. I'm like, let's just think about the
Yeah,
pros
not
and
for
cons
me.
on this for a second,
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it's regardless of gender. Like you're right.
How about you? What resolutions?
For me, I got two. One of them, so on the business side, is accountability for the team. We know if we set time or if we stick to our time blocks when it comes to setting appointments with prospects on the phone, and we are strict with that, and not on Instagram or Facebook or distracted or questions or whatever. And it's not a lot of time. It's going to be 5 to 6 hours of appointment setting time per week, and then 4 hours of door knocking. So about 10 hours a week of doing things that are a little bit harder. It takes a little more energy to do them, right? And to be strict. If we do that, we will talk to a lot of people and we'll be able to help a lot of people. We'll go on more appointments. So how can we, because we always talk about it, but then, things happen, we got deals, life happens, we're traveling, we get back, we don't have the energy. So it's how can I be more of an accountable leader so that they can be more accountable as well. So we're trying to figure out what we can do on a daily basis to be more accountable, right? And so it's like Monday and Wednesday and Friday is our like accountability check-in days. And we're asking them why. Hey, how come you didn't spend 2 hours on Tuesday making calls? And it's like, not grilling them, but just asking them, hey, why'd you get on right? So that's on the business side is accountability. On the personal side is something that has been really hard for me to admit, almost embarrassing. Is I spent, I moved to LA from Rancho Cucamonga in 2009. I grew up in Sierra Madre, Pasadena, and then in high school we moved to Rancho, and then I went to UC Riverside, and so I started my career over there in Rancho. I moved to LA in '09, and then I started working here in '09 under this guy that I was working with for a while. And then I've had girlfriends, long-term girlfriends, kind of in between, from '09 to now, and I haven't really built a community in LA, which is embarrassing because I've been here for so long. Yeah. I have friends and whatnot, and I do have my core group of really good friends from college and like soccer, but they don't live in my area, which is like the West Side. So I don't have a lot of people that I can call up and be like, let's go get some dinner, or go watch a movie, or go walk on the beach, or go for a bike ride. I don't have a lot of those friends, and I'm also 41, and so a lot of the friends I do know have kids, and they don't have that time, So for me, it's yeah. So for me, it's building community. It's like I want to build community here in LA. Last year, I was looking at my calendar. I spent so many weekends out of town because I have a lot of friends out of town. Right. I did semester at CN College, so I have a lot of those really, really close friends that I really love to hang out with. And they're in Santa Barbara. They're in the East Coast. They're in completely different areas. So I tend to go out of town a lot because I want to go hang out with those people that I really love. But I'm like, I want to be more in LA. I want to create a community here in LA. So my goal is and I also want to find a life partner, And I've gone through a lot of different long-term relationships, and I haven't been able to find my life partner. And I've never been worried about that. But it's weird that it's kind of it's almost kind of getting to me where I'm like, whoa, I'm 41, turning 42 next month. I don't have kids. I don't have a life partner. It's almost starting to creep in, like, what is wrong with you, Paul? And so I'm trying to get into like better self-talk about it, but it's really been hard for me, to realize where I'm at in life and to be like, what's wrong with you? Because everybody else has family and kids, and like I didn't want to have kids until like I was 36, 37 when I was with my last ex-girlfriend, and we really tried to work things out and therapy and plant medicine, all this stuff, and it just didn't work out, and so that was a really tough transition in my life. It was like, all right, we ended up things about 2 years ago, and I turned 40, and I think that like realization like kind of set into me. It was just like, whoa, I'm single at 40, so talking to my guys in my men's group, and like, because I was on Hinge and on other like, on Bumble, and like meeting people that way, women that way.
Yeah.
And so I think the community kind of ties into finding a life partner for me, because I do want to start a family, and I don't want to be this old dad. I'm young, I feel good, and I have energy, but I know that kids are a lot, and I can see my friends. How much they look like they age, when they have kids, because it's like it's a lot, it's taxing on them.
My hair was dark black until 8 years ago.
Yeah. We got pics.
Fair enough.
What you're saying. First of all, thank you for like just being open about that.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of goals.
Yeah.
Like the minute that you said, like the thing about goals is that like when you have them and you look at them often, you will see them in the most unobvious places.
Yeah.
Like, your goal is to move to New York, and like you're in the bathroom at Barney's Beanery and there's a thing, you pull down the piece of paper and it says roommate looking for the East Coast. You call and you're like, oh my God, this is fate. Yeah. I've just said I want to go to the East Coast. It's my new goal. Like I want to move to New York. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in Boston. Yeah. But I think I have a best friend that might be leaving and needs a subletter in New York. Like, it's just that, right? Yeah. Like, my goal is to fall in love, and you're in line at McDonald's, and one of the things that you want is to have a partner that, like, values health. Yeah. So you choose the grilled McChicken. Like, it's crazy what goals do. And I say all that to say that when you were, like, you were looking for community, like, I wanted to raise my hand and be like, I'll be your friend. Like, just that. Like literally, like when you have goals and your other goal is about accountability, you talk about them a lot. Yeah. If you look at them a lot, you'll see them a lot. You'll talk about 100%. Them a lot. And not just some people will call that manifestation. Yeah. Like I don't care about the science behind it or not. Yeah. Like I know that like if I have a goal and I always am like omnipresent that it's there, I will see it everywhere. 100%. Yeah. So like I just have so much faith that like you have such intentionality behind these, I'm going to call them goals, right? And they're obviously tied to purpose. Yeah. Like just look at them every day. Because like we will in like every keynote we ask people the same questions. We're like, hey, how many of you have goals?
Yeah.
Everyone raises their hand.
Yeah, of
how
course.
many of you haven't written down? You look at them
Yeah.
every day. Half the room raises their hand. How many of you have a purpose statement? 3 hands are up. There's a room of 3,000 people.
I know.
3 hands have a
Yeah.
purpose statement. And you know, only what?
A purpose
only,
statement. I like that.
But you have
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
regardless
yeah.
if it's codified, and you're attaching it. Like when you said that you wanted a life partner, it was attached to something bigger. When you said you wanted a community, it was attached to something bigger. That is like, you're not going to wake up one day and decide, I'm done, I created a community. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So you're sort of like manufacturing being in the best part of the movie, the chase. Because you'll always want to foster the community. You'll always want to serve this life partner. And that's what we were finding in the goals versus purpose chapter. Like people were not, they were purposefully creating a purpose they couldn't just catch.
Yeah.
So every time they hit their goal, they just knew they were getting closer to their purpose, but you never catch it.
Yeah.
So you're always in the best part of the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's been great because like now it's like like it's on my mirror in my bathroom, community
You're
with
gonna
2
find
hearts.
it. Yeah.
You know, and like I'm doing like if there's anything that involves more people, I'm gonna go and like my intention is to go meet more people.
That's great.
You know, like I did breath work. I met some cool dude, got his number, cool, and just connecting with him. You know, we're gonna have dinner on Friday, today. I joined this like men's group that is part of like my yoga studio, meeting other guys that are being vulnerable and open,
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to meet new people, and it's such a vulnerable experience because I am, even though I'm extrovert in some ways, I'm also introvert in some ways, and so like going out there and like being 41 and go and hang out with these other people it's almost intimidating for me,
It's the growth.
Yeah, it is the growth, exactly. So it's like it took me a while to get to this point, but now I'm like, all right, I'm all in. I'm like doing this like group dinner thing with a bunch of strangers next Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm also excited.
The other tie-in that I think of as you share all this stuff with us is that there is no one right way to do things. We've already talked about that, and I'm thinking that as you say it, but I also know that saying that out loud means nothing to you unless that's your idea, unless you internalize that. So it kind of ties back to the agency that we talked about too. It's sort of another example of how all this stuff weaves together and ties together in different ways. But
I love your
I
goals,
like
man.
it.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. How do people connect with you guys?
LinkedIn, you can just find us on our names.
LinkedIn.
We have a website,
ColinandGarrett.com if you
ColinGarrett.com, The Unsold Mindset. Really good book. I'm halfway through. You got my my bookmark right here.
Nice.
I'm in. It's so funny because one of the guys on my team was having a really tough day yesterday, and right where I left off, there was a section about if you're having a tough day, this is what you should do, and it was so helpful. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming, and gosh, can I forget the word?
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
So what is this? Give us the backstory here.
So the backstory is the guy who created this bracelet thing with the word on it. I know him. He's in the West Side, and he also sells these. He actually just gave me this, and it's just a card game to get to know people more, and they're really, really good questions.
Okay.
So what I've been doing with even friends that I've known for so long, I bring this with me because I want to foster deeper relationships. I'm part of a men's group, like I've shared with you. It's a medicine men's group, so we do like ayahuasca and together as a group and like peyote, and I love these guys. I've only known them for a year, but I feel like I can tell them these things that are embarrassing or just deeper things with them more than even my closest friends here in LA that I've known for 20 years.
Yeah.
So like I'm bringing this to like parties and to like events or to like whatever it is, so I can get to know them a little bit more. Because there's some questions here that I don't even know about them. So let's see.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. One
I
question.
hope I
each.
learned something new about you.
One question each. All right, so why don't we do this? Why don't you pick a card? You ask Colin, and you ask Garrett.
Oh, this is an easy one for him.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Colin,
Oh man.
what is most important to you?
Health and family.
Okay, that was an easy one.
That was easy
Yeah,
because
okay.
those are literally my
Yeah.
same 2 answers.
Yeah.
This one is actually a great one.
Oh gosh.
Colin, what? No. Just Garrett, what does the world need more of?
Ooh, that's a good
Love,
one.
sweet love.
Yes, he's older than us. That's a song.
You're old enough to know it. What does the world need more of?
Love.
My mind goes so many different places.
Showing your work.
These days,
Right here.
Right?
Yeah,
Not
right.
intentionally.
Yeah, right there.
So he just gives
oh,
himself
I'm buying
permission.
time.
Yeah,
I'm just buying
yeah,
time.
Well, there's that too, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you're gonna buy time, like even that's showing.
I like
your work.
that, yeah.
I'm buying time.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
That
We
was
know
an
he's
example.
buying time. Say it. You know.
I am buying time. My mind is going a couple different places with this because, like, the obvious answer really is like love or positivity.
Yeah.
And that's I think about that a lot. But I think I'm gonna go a slightly different direction and say genuine curiosity. Because everybody's really dug in right now. I'm not just talking politics. I'm talking everything. Like, this is the way to, and I can include myself in that. Like, Colin knows, I like a good routine. How do I get curious about what can I change to be better as an individual and to make the world around me better? So when I say curiosity, that's what I mean. I like that question. Yeah, that's my answer. Curiosity.
Cool.
There's a
Awesome.
book I just read by some BCG
Yes.
people called Thinking in New Boxes, which is interesting. I recommended it. It's
Thinking what?
in new boxes.
Okay.
It basically is like acknowledging that we all have a box that we think in.
Yeah.
Like, what if you thought in new? And for you, where you're at with your team, I think you'd actually really like it. It's basically about intentionally, like an intentional debate, like intentionally disrupt yourself, like
Perspective.
having new. It's
Yeah.
intentionally thinking in new perspectives. But there's something about the boxes that resonates because we all know we live in a box.
And I think when you talk about perspective, like for me, I don't know if you guys have done like plant medicine intentionally, you know, to like uncover something. I've really been passionate about this. Is that, man, when you're taking mushrooms or ayahuasca or peyote, like you see perspectives and you're just like, how come I never even thought about that?
Yeah.
It makes complete sense why this person's doing this or why I'm doing this or like whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And I think it's because it removes the ego and you're more into your heart. And your heart can see things in a more heart-centered way. There's more compassion, more empathy. I know you guys talk about empathy in your book as well.
My plant medicine days were from UC Santa Barbara. So
Oh, okay.
they were not intentional.
Oh, yeah, you're a gaucho.
They were overly
I've dated some
intentional.
gauchos. Good
but
times.
But I do hear you, and I have some really smart people in my community that are doing some amazing things in plant medicine, especially in like the therapy world.
Yeah. It's powerful, man.
PTSD. And,
Yeah, it's powerful.
I love it. And I love how you're expressing it.
I think we probably partied together on Del Playa at some point.
I do.
Because
Same
you're,
year, right?
Yes, yeah.
You graduated in
Do you
01
know
high
Do you know
school?
Taryn Zichterman or Jessica Evans,
sound like I should
Aaron
know.
Z? Just
No.
Yeah.
I was an
Now,
AE
when Colin tells me about his college experience,
Yeah.
he's the man. He knows everybody. You just got three names. He looked like he was lost.
His
Like,
entire
no.
college, okay?
The way you tell your stories, you know everybody. They all know
I did
you.
win the freestyle Olympics, okay? I did.
Stephanie Stapleton.
I guess Stephanie Stapleton wasn't at the freestyle Olympics
Damn
that
it.
year.
Stephanie, if you were there, no.
Colleen Riley. Well, do you know anybody from Semester at Sea?
No, I didn't go to
That because there's a lot of kids from Semester at Sea that were at Santa Barbara.
No.
That's why Taryn was my girlfriend for 8 years in my 20s that I met. She was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why I used to go there all the time and party because she was going there still. Yeah.
But I did live
Anyway.
on DP for 3 years.
Oh, what an amazing
and I was
school.
An
So
API
jealous.
for 2 years, and
It's a great school.
Special,
Yeah.
special place.
Some cool people have come out of like that I know out of Santa Barbara, like from that school, like just really good, genuine people, man.
To your wife.
Yeah.
Comment that you were
Yeah.
her life partner,
Yeah,
Garrett. Like, and sometimes he'll tell people that he's a 4th generation USC Trojan, and he
Yeah.
met his wife there.
Uh-huh.
And then I say I went to UC Santa Barbara. I did not meet my wife there. And it just,
Yeah.
if you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, for
Oh,
nothing other than
yeah.
it's just, it was a lot of partying and it was a lot of school. Yeah. And I have no idea how people balance it, but I'm really proud to say I got out in 4 years. Yeah.
Nice. All right, guys. We will leave it with that. Thanks for coming over. That was a long conversation. I don't know how long that was, but it was nice.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Of course.
it was
Thanks for
This is
coming.
fun.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely,
guys.
man.
Thank you, guys.